I'll make sure that I post that one first,
yes.
so that we can.
Because that is huge. Because as much as the central bank can do all these tools, unless it has a complement with the government doing something,
right,
then you're gonna find yourself in a very tough position. Now, Hoto mentioned there's some positives, like import cover has gone up to 4 months, which is brilliant. However, we talked about cutting rates means we have more money, as in the banks can lend us more money, right? Or they could reduce your burden.
Right.
The one negative thing is private sector borrowing has gone down. So that's not filtering through.
We're not feeling it.
We're not feeling it.
Mojo, you're at the bank, man. Y'all ain't feeling it?
No, I think at the end of the day, it's there's one of the things that you really do not want to do as a lending entity is get to a point whereby you're over-indebting somebody to a point whereby they can't repay.
Sure.
Especially when you have anemic growth.
Yeah.
Now, if you don't have anything that is tangible to slot into, the idea of money is great, but to be quite honest, it's not the solution.
Did you say the idea of money?
The idea of having money.
The idea of increasing money.
It's a bunch of women suddenly going, what? The idea of money is great.
Yeah, but the idea of having access to that funding is great. But the thing is, then how do you actually do that in a sustainable way? And that's where I think the part that he keeps on referring to, that whereby he says, what is the fiscal stimulus that we're looking at that perhaps can actually reinvigorate or bring some kind of activity, albeit at the back of COVID-based initiatives, or we look at whatever sectors that we may actually look at that are ailing and have been deemed critical to have dealt with this crisis.
Sure.
Then perhaps this is a time to actually say perhaps some of this capex should be looking more at actually ring fencing or strengthening these particular sectors given their importance. So there's no such, as much as the situation may be bad, there's always some kind of good that can come out of it should you decide to use that accommodative environment well.
Sure. Nothing is all bad, just as nothing is all good.
Exactly.
Okay. We gotta have a plan though.
We gotta have a plan.
We gotta have a fiscal plan. Like you see what he's saying, you gotta have something to plug that money into.
Sure.
So when you look at how the economy of Lesotho is structured from a GDP perspective, you have to know, fine, if I've got so much in mining, I've got so much in construction, I've got so much in retail, when all that money is in the system, you got to be able to channel it.
It's got to go somewhere.
To those pillars. And that's how you get the economy moving.
So that's
why it's so interesting to sit here and wait and say, okay, no, fine.
Yeah.
That's what I'm interested in.
That's amazing. Mojo. I was gonna call you Smojo, when in fact your name is Mojo. What are the trends? Are people obviously borrowing less? I don't know why I said obviously, but are people borrowing less? Let's say over this COVID period specifically. What are the consumer trends related specifically to since COVID-19 landed?
To be quite honest, I think we're all trying to feel it out as we go along.
Sure.
Because at the end of the day, until there is a firm...
I need you to speak into the mic, Mojo.
Yes, I was just saying, at the end of the day, we're all trying to figure out exactly what the next step is.
Sure.
For instance, when this entire ordeal began, the expectation was that you were going to have slowed activity or very anemic, very low activity until the second half of the year.
Okay.
We're expecting Q3 to Q4 would see some kind of recovery. But as it's unfolded, now more than ever do we start hearing people saying, no, we're looking more at 2021 for what would be tangible recovery. So it's a moving target.
Yeah.
So it's you can't necessarily just jump in, A. And number two, you need to have some kind of guidance with regards to what the recovery is going to look like.
Sure.
I think I can't really say.
If you look at the trends globally over this period, you will notice COVID has hit all the sectors that rely on interactions amongst human beings.
Sure.
So
anything
the hardest
social,
exactly. Yeah. So the hardest hit is like leisure and tourism. Yeah. Or leisure, as Americans like to call it.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's down, right?
Yeah.
Across. Yeah. All right. Also, stuff like trade is down.
Yeah.
The one variable or the one industry that is kind of like doing well is the fact that everybody's sitting at home.
Sure.
So food and beverages.
Yeah.
So you tend to find that food and beverages is actually pretty doing well globally.
But even in that food and bev, that doesn't include hospitality because restaurants are not.
No.
Restaurants are closing down en masse.
So leisure tourism and hospitality. That is the hardest
all
hit.
coming short, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So the beauty about not the beauty. What you tend to find in an economy where a lot of information is disseminated and you can get it easily, you can easily tell which economies are getting hit the hardest.
Sure.
Right. So now when you see, and I hate to say this, but when you look at the COVID plan for South Africa, they have funds specific for sectors in the economy. There's a tourism fund. There's a this fund.
Yeah.
There's that. So because they know exactly how much they need to plug in to those sectors to stimulate it.
Yeah.
So when you bring it closer to Makai, to home, let's go back to the end of last year.
Yeah.
What were the key pillars that the economy was looking at? There was mining, there was construction.
Yeah.
All right, and there was a lot of SACU revenue funds that were supposed to go up. So now the question is, where is that now?
Where is that?
Where is mining? Where is Pudihadi construction?
Yeah.
There's not much SACU because we're not traveling in between the borders.
Yeah. There's no inter thingy border.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just to add to that, I think
I don't like when you add to it. I don't like when you guys agree. I want more sparks. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Continue.
But just to add to that, I think just to bring it closer to home, it is right. The hardest hit actually has been more on the manufacturing side.
Right.
At the end of the day, you have textile industries that are net exporters.
Yeah.
And now if demand slows on the other end, and right now you have effectively closed down that very same factory, what then happens to what is your hard currency earner or the activity or income you used to see then?
Sure.
So that's one. The second most hit is your primary, and your primary is being mining.
Yeah.
Now I'm referring to these particular ones primarily because they're the anchors of this economy.
Yeah.
And now you have construction and mining. Construction at the back of LHDA Phase 2 or LHWP. And you have mining, given the fact that I think that's been our mainstay and that's helped us through
the worst of times.
In recent times.
Sure.
So those two pretty much are on the back foot. What has been very surprising is that services, if you look at some of the reports, services are the least impacted. I guess at the end of the day, you have the luxury of actually logging on and working remotely and continuing and sending your documents.
Sure.
It may be a bit of an adjustment in terms of oversight, but nonetheless, you can keep on moving.
Right.
I think what I do wonder about is at the end of the day, a large range of services are in service to what is sitting in the primary and secondary sectors.
Yeah.
Now, what then happens when that starts waning? Because then who are you servicing?
Exactly.
So it's, the knock-on effects are not necessarily obvious at all times. So that will come with a lag. But if it ends as anticipated, then at the end of the day, you may find that the net impact won't be as bad. But the longer it goes on, the worse it's going to be.
I'm thinking about my barber. Thinking about my haircut guy. He obviously foot traffic has slowed almost to a halt. It happens that we're currently in what is in the traffic light scenario. We're in orange. We're in amber. So he has to be closed anywhere. But he's going to open at some point. Not too long. But at that point, I know for myself, I'm not going to be comfortable to go back to him. Until such time as he can show me something.
Correct.
What's going to happen to those guys? The bread and butter economies, the everyday kind of, that's how I earn my living, money in, money out sectors.
It's going to be carnage. Sorry to put it so bluntly.
I think you've got to. It's the big time.
It's going to be carnage. Now, the one thing about our economy is we're closed into South Africa, so we depend 90%. Is it 90% goods and services, right? So when you close that economy, it means we have to find some kind of services amongst ourselves.
Yeah, self-sustained.
Exactly. So now when we close that, because of a hard lockdown, because the numbers are getting crazy, then you're in trouble. Because...
It doesn't get better.
No, it won't. It won't get better at all, because then you have to react now in terms of how do we create an economy where we are feeding ourselves, on some kind of level, and we are consuming what we are creating. And if we can export, even better.
Yeah.
So we have to start thinking along those lines. And you have to create a system such that when the bank or the CBL cuts rates, that can filter in immediately.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what we're missing.
Yeah.
Hayamon, because that filter, it drags.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It really does drag. And fiscal policy usually comes in to help close a bit of that gap so that you don't have to wait too long to see the benefits of something like that. So it's going to be tough. It's going to be bad. Speaking as somebody who's had to shut down 2 businesses,
Yeah.
I can only imagine how people are going to survive if we have to go to a hard lockdown. And I put something up on Facebook a couple of weeks ago, and I got a lot of backlash.
I wanted to ask you about that.
Yeah.
Because some of it was I'm gonna call it vitriolic, and I wasn't sure that there was space for the vitriol, though I did understand why the vitriol exhausted. And just to talk about that post, you spoke about how we need to think about a hard-ish lockdown, and somebody said you're typing that from a point of privilege. Can you just explain to us what your thinking was in terms of why you said hard lockdown?
First of all, there wasn't a concrete plan that was initiated.
This was prior to.
This was prior to. We were all debating what's going on.
Yeah.
We're 3 months, arguably 3 months into this thing. We had just a bit over a month of a lockdown, and there was no plan put in place.
Yeah, the lockdown did absolutely nothing for us.
It did absolutely nothing.
We didn't build capacity in that time.
Exactly.
If anything, what we might have done was helped in thinking the curve. Yeah.
So a hard lockdown, I did not specify the time, because you can't specify a time on a hard lockdown when you don't know what the pulse of the economy looks like.
Sure.
So you're going to do a hard lockdown for 14 days until you get some form of a response, or the government comes out and says we're going to do A, B, C, D.
Right.
All right. But essentially what you need to do, what NACOSEC needs to do, is to give confidence to the market. Okay, this is what we're going to do. This is the plan, and it's going to work. Then all those things will start working together.
They'll start to harness each other.
Exactly.
I'm going to ask you one last question before we go on break at 6 o'clock. The CBL had an economic report that was published in December. Where are we relative to that?
I think we've kind of touched on that. One, so the 3 main drivers, there was a bit more, but the ones that I remember that stand out: mining and construction, SACU revenue, and I don't know what was the other one? Textiles, right?
Textile.
Yeah. So now the question is, where are those? They're far below that target.
This was before COVID. Everybody's behind.
Exactly.
Yeah.
In fact, it's even worse than we're thinking of 2008, where we didn't think we'd get to 2008 levels.
We're in the second quarter now, are we?
We're in the second quarter.
And it's not gone well.
It's not gone well. So when you talk to some textile firms, you see a bit of resurgence happening, especially to the guys who are exporting to South Africa. They're seeing a bit of pickup because South Africa has opened up. But the other guys, I suspect that industry is ailing a bit. And then LHDA, I mean, that was delayed, right? We had the issue with South Africans coming across the border. We had the issue with work permits. So I think that is also going to be hit hard. Already it was delayed in December, so now it's going to be delayed even more. And then mining, I mean, we're talking about gem diamonds, right?
Yeah.
Precious metals. Where's precious metals right now? Nobody's really buying those. So, in my view, it is looking very dire.
It's all gone Pete Tom. Mojo, do you have anything to add to that before we pay some bills?
Yes, I do. I do acknowledge that that's happening, but
yes,
I
finally
think
a disagreement.
I think quietly they are trying to figure out exactly how they can start to work, and I think, just to be fair, I don't think anybody's going to have all the answers at one go.
For sure.
So we're going to have to figure this out as we go along.
Yeah.
I'd say let's wait and see. I think if we truly understand what our drivers are, and if we fully then use this time to learn where our deficiencies are as an economy, then I think you may come out stronger after this particular crisis. It doesn't seem like it now, but nonetheless, I think it's a reality check. I would explain why I think it's a reality check, but you're about to
Pay my bills.
Pay your bills.
Okay, let me pay my bills, and then when I come back, you can tell me why it's a reality check, so that I don't get checked on like live on air.
And then the last time, remember, we talked about whether we have the right man in the right place.
Yeah. Okay, we're gonna come back to that. It's 1800 hours on the Big Time Sky Alpha HD. It is the Big Time with Fire. Bella and Gam Gam have gone off. They'll be back at the back end of this conversation. Mojo and Smokes, they are the revenge of the nerds.